Hello, I'm Tom Swiftbird, and this is another installment of an unnamed podcast, yet to be named podcast, nameless podcast, dedicated to exploring some issues that I find to be of importance. I've been a writer for quite a few years, though I resisted moving over to a talking medium for some time. I just kind of don't like the accents of my voice. There's a little bit of a Midwestern kind of drawl in there. There's a little bit of a native drawl in there, and somehow kind of a slow stoner drawl got in there too. But I really appreciate listening to writers that I enjoy read things they've written in their own voice. People like Alan Watts or John Trudell, and I do think there's something special about that, hearing words come out of the voice that it belongs to. So I'm trying to do a little more of that for the moment, mostly taking things I've written in the past and kind of riffing off them, using them as jumping off points to a few different tangents. Though in the future, maybe I'll have a few guests, maybe I'll have a few conversations. But yeah, for now, just kind of riffing off things I've written in the past. And the thing I want to talk about today is resistance. In the media, you see these pictures of resistors and protesters, and it's often presented as quite this scary, ominous sort of thing, proceeding from questionable motives and intentions. And I would like to explore that a bit, because I think in its essence resistance is love. And so this is going to get into a piece I wrote of the same, but so exploring the mentality of it for a moment, I find resistance often makes people very uncomfortable when it happens, when the media shows up and captures it. People watch it and commentate on it who are perhaps bystanders, who are outside of it, and and often makes them uncomfortable. And I find a lot of that goes back to this almost extreme centrist mentality that its chief aim is to just keep on keeping on, basically, and anything that disturbs that status quo is seen as suspicious. And if there's some part of that status quo that's oppressive and being opposed, well, these sort of people with extreme centrist mentality, they don't really care so much that maybe some people find this oppressive. They just want things to keep on keeping on. They just want things to go as they always have, and that's really their primary motivation. It staying right in the middle, making sure we never go outside of the middle. Yeah, and being kind of threatened, kind of terrified by anything more extreme, even if that more extreme sort of position makes sense. I think I encounter this a lot out here living in the American Midwest, where if you challenge any kind of authority or power, there's a lot of people who are against you, not so much on whether or not your cause is just or not, but just for the fact that you're stepping out of line, you're stepping out of the norm, you're kind of disrupting things. That in itself is seen as morally bad. And my perspective on it is totally different from that extreme center mentality, and that I think it takes a lot of courage and a lot of passion to stand up to power, to stand up to something about the status quo that is oppressive. So this thing I wrote called "Resistance is Love," it's kind of in response to being labeled a troublemaker. It's kind of in response to being scapegoated for a lot of things that make people uncomfortable. It's a response basically to the charge that I'm always just mired in controversy and sort of high on fire. So, here we go. Contrary to the opinion of some, I really don't find any warmth in setting fires. I don't take joy in pushing collapsing things toward their doom. Destruction, even of what deserves to be destroyed, is no cause for elation. I don't spit acid for the sake of burning scattershots in the fabric of everything good. And sometimes I'm asked, why don't you talk about the things you love, Tom? Why are you taking aim at something all the time? Why are you destroying rather than building? And yet the question, what do you love, is really an indicator someone has not been reading or listening or paying attention to what I'm all about very closely, because even at my most acerbic there is love. My discontent has its roots in love. And I'll quote a song by the band Remember Me Feral that resonates with me on this point. People often mistake the spirit of resistance. They see it as anger and hatred and imagine its taste to be bitter, but resistance is founded in love. We find some things so beautiful and love them so deeply, so urgently, that when we identify systemic oppression that endangers them, we must resist. People often misjudge this motivation and feel it is a personal attack on them as individuals, but resistance is not something to be feared or to hold disdain for. Resistance is a passionate movement for the preservation of beauty. And so though it's not in the least mysterious, and I really think it's leaving through absolutely everything that I write and talk about in any kind of venue, I have no problem answering that question, what do you love? Answering that charge that I don't speak about it. I do actually speak about it all the time, and even when I'm on the offensive, it's actually a defensive maneuver to uphold the beauty of these things. So, yeah, I have no problem talking about what I love. I love the land. I love the soil underneath me. I love the air surrounding me. I love the water and the nourishment it gives. I love the sun. I love all the iterations and tonality of light. I love the darkness, the duskin autumnal winds. I love the sunrise, the sunset, and the starry night sky. I love the heat of summer, even as it incites wildfires that clog the sky with acrid smoke. I love the winter, even as its blizzards swarm the roads I must travel with ice. The land is so beautiful, even as it is lethal, towering above and beyond me, liable to snuff out my existence with even its gentle roiling. I love the seasons. I love the cycles of the land coursing through history without botherment. I love the creatures, their struggle, their formation, how they fit their environments, how they make what they can of their brevity. I love their beautiful ephemerality. I love the million skulls and skeletons cradled by dust where they fall. I love the plants. I love the grass, sun-bleached or pregnant and green with rain. I love the trees, tall and venerable, casting shadows. I love that the earth is not a dead place. Nearly everywhere you step there is life. So, loving this land, why would I not oppose the pipelines that will cut across the purity of water with their oil poison? Why should I not oppose the efforts to extract the uranium poison that is the most lethal substance humankind has ever known? Why should I not lament all the old things that used to grow but have gone nearly extinct in the last 100 years or so? Why should I have any respect for the systematic exploitation and destruction of this beauty for the profiteering of a minuscule few on top of the capitalist pyramid scheme? So if it's not clear, I'm on the side of the pine forest, the porcupines, the prairie flowers, the aquifers, the rivers, the springs. And I think this is a foolish world that does not realize destroying flora, fauna, and multitudes of biomes, we will ultimately destroy ourselves. So yeah, if it's unclear where I stand or where my opposition comes from, let it be no longer a mystery. Let it be said here without any obfuscation. I love where I'm from, the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, the Oglala Lakota. I love our history, I love our resilience, I love our values and philosophy, and I love how many persons make it through a stacked deck of adversity. I love how many are not broken despite having so many institutions of bureaucratic red tape, forces of systematic enfeeblement working against them. I love it when my people smile and joke. If they smile through teeth broken through the inadequate care of the Indian Health Services system, that is all the more beautiful, emblematic of our deep resilience. Contending with alcoholism, with dysfunctional family environments, with a lack of opportunity, with a whole community falling through the cracks of America, with historical trauma. While contending with all that, I love how many triumph. I love how many Lakota I meet ripe with genius, whether gifted artistically, musically, in the industrial arts, or in the sciences and the legal professions, or being stellar human beings who care and if will uplift everyone around them. I love that we are still here despite 200 years of quarantine, placed in political structures never built for our success, but instead built for our failure and ignominy. You know, I drive down Highway 18 and I see Lakota youth runners getting ready for the track season, and it fills me with such pride. I'm so glad to see anyone doing anything positive for themselves and for their community. I'm glad to see elders recording their stories, see how much love they have for the art of storytelling. I'm so glad to see youth enroll in education to seek a better world and solutions to all the problems we face. I love how easy it is to connect with persons from indigenous communities all over the world, how similar and intersected our struggles tend to be, and how I wish I had more power so I could make it all right. So, loving these communities, these people, my family, my friends, how can I not stand against the caricatures, the straw Indians, the ignorance, the blind hatred, the oblivious invisibility, the prejudice, the whitewashed lying rosiness of American history? How can I not stand against the continued erasure, exploitation, and subjugation? So, the answer to that is I can't sit idly by, so I'm going to let the voiceless inhabit my marrow, and they can have their say through my tongue. I'll remember in a world of forgetting, because who else will? When police use the shotgun for execution against an unarmed native, and next week find the beanbags to subdue an armed white guy, well, I'll stand against it. When uncaring, far-off bureaucracies try to defund everything that helps, try to terminate us through attrition, I'll be there opposing it. When oil and uranium companies view natives as an acceptable sacrifice for the profiteering of their greed, I'll be there, ready to cut off the head of any poisonous snakes that try to pass. When the border town cowboys, prairie ignorant, want someone to look down on, want to mock natives merely so someone will be at the bottom of American society other than them, I'll stand up against it whenever I encounter it. When shady preachers and non-profits see they can quench their lust for dollars by exploiting our poverty and need, I'll call that out where I see it. And if that makes someone uncomfortable, they can go ahead and be uncomfortable. It really doesn't bother me. I'm not really too scared to offend that extreme center. You know, these are things that are real and are a problem, and you know, I'm not going to shut up about it. And so, you know, what it comes down to is I really love every pocket of life, of compassion, of creativity, of escape from the status quo that I find in the anxious, ever-creeping, all-consuming, prosaic, apathy-loving, inhumane uniformity of much of American society. I really love the human connection of two vastly different persons that should be isolated in separate cells by their socioeconomic status, finding some commonality, breaking invisible barriers. You know, even friendship is revolutionary sometimes. Love the woman who can take a moment out of her day, the rat race of money gathering and needing to pass exams, to appreciate a song, a piece of writing. I love the street art that blankets alleys of business districts. I love the anarchy symbol on a light post in front of the bank. I love the underworld, the echoes of its vibrancy, its whispers that all is not dead and drab. I love when persons begin to see each other not as objects in the metropolitan monolith, but as tangible persons teeming with real breath. I love when communities begin to question the myths that nothing can ever change and that they are powerless. I love when persons start to see each other as non-disposable, not easily discarded, not merely means to some greedy end. I love passion. I love when someone is not too cool to care. I love when someone comes out of the cocoon of their sneering to be vulnerable enough to have their heart eviscerated by the insanity of these ways of life. I love when someone is unashamed of carrying the scars of everything. So, you know, loving all not afflicted with the disease of prosaic, consumerist, authoritarian dictated, systematic uniformity. Well, how could I not declare the emptiness of all we find ourselves ensconced within? From Atlantic to Pacific, I have not found hardly anyone happy. It is the same worries, the same worker drone imprisonment, lavish yet desolate, the same sad stories of existential lament and unfulfillment, howled over and over again. Everyone wants this harmony and contentment in their lives, but most seem to have forgotten how to treat one another, have forgotten anything other than the ways of disharmony, and so I stand against it and am glad to find anyone doing the same. Even if it is something so monolithic and huge it is hard to name or label with a description, you know resistance when you see it. So even at my most critical, when I seem venomous and high on fire to some, when I may be spitting acid, it will all be in the service of love to things I value, things I find beautiful. I don't think any of this was ever hidden or mysterious. Pay attention, and what I love was shouted loudly in every polemic I wrote, every criticism I ever lobbed, every ideological fight I ever entered. Yet, here it is, said as straightforward as possible, if somehow someone missed it. So to end, you know, let's take a look at that line from the Remember Me Pharrell song again. Resistance is a passionate movement for the preservation of beauty. Resistance is a passionate movement for the preservation of beauty. I'm Tom Swiftbird, and I'm signing out.